Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Probably good afternoon I think we have a few people joining us from the UK. So good afternoon to you as well. Very excited to have everybody on our Zoom or webinar with us today. And we are going to kind of walk through a little bit of an update on what's going on with Reputation, and then talk a little bit about some of the things we're doing with our partners. So we have an action-packed agenda today for about 45 minutes or so, and we'd really like everybody to interact with us as well. So I think if in the application we're using today, there's areas that you can ask questions, and so we definitely want to, as we go through the content, just type in questions that you have, and we'll do our best to answer those. But joining me today, I have Devin Ravel, Phil Rapisardo, and Sandy Runner. Devin heads up our technology partnership group, and so we'll be hearing from him a little bit later today. And then Phil Rapisardo heads up product marketing within Reputation, and then Sandy Runner heads up a big part of our marketing organization, and then focuses heavy on partner marketing as well. So with that, I will get sort of things kicked off, so a little bit of context, and then I'll be handing it off to different parts of the group today to go through the content. So what I wanted to do is start off with a little bit of sort of the vision of Reputation. We have some of us on the call today joined us in our customer event in Nashville back in April. So we talked a little bit there. We had a kind of a partner day event, and we talked a little bit about Reputation, and then they were able to see, what we do as a company. But we do have some new partners on the call today that are joining us. So I wanted to just set a little bit of a context about how we approach Reputation and what are we trying to accomplish, and what are the things that we do with our customers. So you can read this on the screen, but in essence, everything we focus in is really understanding the customer from a feedback perspective. And as we go through today, probably a lot in Phil's presentation around sort of the product and the messaging, you'll see we're doing a tremendous amount of work on how we really understand how customers are interacting with brands around their businesses and their services. And those of you that have worked with us for a while know that we're very strong in location based and understanding reviews and social and surveys and feedback and all of that. But what we're really trying to do is help customers and help businesses really understand that sentiment, and then in essence run their businesses better, gain a competitive advantage, and grow their bottom line. And that's really what we do with our customers, and sort of the vision of our organization. So if I take that a little bit further down into this next slide, and obviously, again, some of you that are new to us, I always try to think about, okay, what's sort of I call it the barbecue pitch. If you were in the backyard and someone said, what does Reputation do? What would you say? We are an experience management platform. So everything I said on the last slide, everything trying to understand how organizations are being viewed by people and consumers that interact with them. But really what our core mission is, how do we take all of that feedback, and through our platform, and we'll see a little bit of that today, but fuel growth for your business. And when you think about fueling growth, that's all from acquiring customers, making sure that customers are happy, making sure that I'm growing if I'm trying to grow my customer base. So really think about it as we transform businesses by having them be able to take all the feedback that they're gathering and turning that into growth for their business. So that's sort of our sort of the main focus area that kind of leads into the vision that I talked about on the previous slide. The next, how we approach this, and this is, I won't spend a ton of time on here, but we think about our platform. Three main areas that we collect data, and Phil will dive into this in a lot more detail, but obviously feedback, location, and brand. We're one of the few technologies in the marketplace that can combine all of this data together into one platform. And then obviously doing a very, very good job with our predictive analytics and our AI engines, be able to understand what you should do with that feedback, how you action on that feedback. And then the last layer, customer data. And Devin's going to touch on this a little bit in his section, because one of the things that's really interesting that we're seeing going on in the market, and probably more so driven by some of the partners that we're working with, is how do I take that customer data, which is very, very powerful, and start to use that in other parts of an organization and other parts of customer acquisition. Probably, I think we might have a few people on the line today that are with CDP companies. And we all know that enriching customer data is very, very critical for marketing organizations. We have a tremendous amount of customer data. So we're starting to see more activity in that range as well. Okay, now what I'd like to do is turn it over to Phil. And Phil, head of our product marketing, and I'll brag a little bit about Phil. He's been with the company for five and a half years, knows our products inside and out, and he's just tremendous presenter, got some great content to go through. So Phil, with that, I'll turn it over to you and have you talk to us for a little bit.
Yeah, appreciate it, Brent. And thank you everyone for spending some time with us. For those of you that were at our Transform event, some of these concepts I presented there, I'm going to do it differently this time around. So don't worry, it's going to be fresh. But for those of you that weren't, what we're really going to talk about for the next 15, 20 minutes or so is what we're building, how we talk about our platform and the way that we believe our kind of best clients are utilizing the tool to take advantage of what we think is just a real opportunity to use feedback data in a way to drive value, kind of to what Brent was talking about. And so I'm going to dive right in, but that's the expectation of what we're doing here for the next few minutes, is just digging into the platform, what we're building, and honestly, how we talk about it. As Brent mentioned also, please throw chats, questions into the tool if there's anything that isn't clear or anything that we need to elaborate on. So the first thing I want to talk about is literally how we talk about feedback, right? And the simple way to think about it is there's public and private feedback. And this is a concept that we, for a long, long time, have been trying to, it used to be convince companies. 5 years ago, I was trying to convince people that public feedback and private feedback, both things matter. It's not like you should just look at surveys or you should just look at reviews or whatever it ends up being. Now we're kind of at a point in the maturity where I think people kind of get that. They understand that public feedback, all the social comments, all the review data, and private feedback, the surveys, the direct messages, a bunch of other stuff you're seeing on the screen here. All of it matters, but what they're struggling to do is figure out how to use it. And so there's kind of two parts to that. The first thing, which is represented in this diagram, is, well, let's not forget that feedback can either be solicited or unsolicited, which literally just means I could ask you to give me feedback, or you could just go do it on your own, right? Pick a channel, write something about me or my business, say whatever you want. And so there's strategies behind that, right? And that's often a lot of times what we do. We sit down with customers and we say, when should we ask for feedback? What channel should we be asking for feedback from? When it's a complaint, how do we move them into one of those private channels so that we can close the loop in a way that's meaningful, but also, you know, not having it out in public, and all of those things. And so one just big picture concept I want to make sure everyone on this call understands is we think one of the first things you should do when working with your customers, and especially if you're partnering with us, is define the different public areas, public channels that feedback exists for your client, the different private channels, and then literally ask, when are you soliciting feedback? Are you soliciting feedback? And where are people giving you feedback unsolicited? Where are they just writing stuff about you? And do we have any visibility into that? That all becomes super important to how we think about taking advantage of this opportunity. And we always try to think about the customer journey or the consumer journey when we're processing this type of information. So to us, if you just take one single journey, this is an automotive example, but if I'm going to buy a car, right? The interesting thing is two things are happening. Above the journey is everywhere I'm going to read other people's feedback. Because me, the consumer, I'm trying to validate all my choices, right? Oh, I see that it's between these three dealerships and I'm going to read reviews. I'm going to go to their Facebook page. I'm going to look at Instagram, whatever it might be, read blogs. I'm just trying to validate that I'm making the best choice that I can make along the way. That's all the stuff that you see at the top of the chart here. Underneath, those are all the places I might actually talk to you if you're a business, right? I might write a review. I might direct message you. I might text you. I might fill out a survey. I might make a phone call. There's all these channels where I might be engaging directly with you, having conversations, providing feedback. And the whole point is this gets messy. And at the end of the day, there needs to be some version of an understanding of where all this feedback is happening. Do we have a place where it all lives, where we can start to understand it a little bit better? And then can we actually figure out what the right actions to take are that will drive business impact, all the stuff Brent said, right? Keep our customers, make them more loyal, grow our customer base, and yeah, acquire new customers as well, because this whole beginning part, that's the whole Google world, right? We need to make sure we're even a part of the consideration set before we're going to be able to win that customer. And again, one more concept. Brent talked about this a little bit, but what we're really trying to do is we're trying to answer 3 simple questions. That's our platform's intent. We're trying to tell every business we work with how they're doing. We're trying to explain to them what their competitors are doing so they get some comparison of, okay, here's what I'm up to, but compared to my competitors, am I better, am I worse, and where am I lacking or exceeding them? And then what should I do about it, right? That's the action side of things, right? You need to be doing things with this data, or it's just a big pile of data that, okay, great, we can look at it every once in a while, but ultimately you have to do stuff. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to dive into 3 areas of our platform that we're building. And I'm actually going to try to do this where I'm going to share just some specific customer stories, not necessarily naming specific customers, but talking about use cases that I think are really important. So when you think about this public and private feedback concept, really what we tell basically anyone who's willing to listen to me talk is, if you look at private feedback on its own or public feedback on its own, they're going to tell you a different story, right? Private is what people are saying to you because you ask them and they're saying, oh yeah, at this point in time, I feel this way or that way. Public is what they're saying about you. And a lot of times these things can be different. I might say something publicly on a tweet or in a Reddit thread or wherever it might be that's a little bit different than email you send me to fill out a survey after I buy a product or a service. And what we see, and this is an example that I shared during Transform, but we've ran probably another dozen of these since that to stress test this. When you actually break down what customers are talking about, so I'm talking about the open comments within that feedback, right? It's not just an NPS score, but it's what they say when you say, tell me why. It's not just a review, but it's what they say behind that star rating. The themes change if you're just looking at one channel versus if you're looking at all of it. So the simple way that I hope everyone thinks about what we're doing is we're saying, if you're taking action on one channel in isolation, in this case, this is really just surveys that you're seeing on the left, you might not be actually taking action on the biggest issue or challenge that you have operationally as an organization. Combine all that feedback together, then have things like machine learning tools, NLP tools, give you this insight into what's happening. That's really what our platform is built to do, so that we can tell you, you need to focus on communication. You need to focus on billing, whatever the specific areas of your business that we're noticing are weaknesses or getting the most negative sentiment. And so in the spirit of talking about what we're creating, today, we do this in a way that says, click on our Experience Insights solution. Here's your strengths. Here's your weaknesses. You can read all the verbatims related to, in this case, sales tactics and pressure. And we break that down. And it's meaningful. It's useful. People use it all the time. We believe that we can do a little bit better with this. And so what we're developing, yeah, go ahead, Brent.
Oh, sorry, jump in. We have a question came through. I think maybe just jump back up to that prior slide.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do we have someone's just asking, is there a customer example? Because obviously this is some of our partners, a little bit newer concept that maybe aren't doing as much survey. Is there I'm thinking of one of our large pub chains. I think they, on the sort of the public and private, how they saw if they would have went with one or the other, they potentially would have made the wrong decision on what actions they wanted to take on their customers.
Yeah, so the one I had showed you visually before was more of a healthcare facility example. In the pub side of things, it's really interesting because we work with a bunch of pub chains, especially in Europe, and they see a lot of them were just really looking at public feedback, a lot of review data, and it would tell them certain things. We found creative ways to run smart survey programs and even find ways to survey people that normally you wouldn't be able to get contact information, and started combining these things. And I think, Brent, the thing that I would share in the pub example is it actually varied by location what we were finding. And those differences really accelerated when we added the surveys to the mix. What I mean by that is certain locations had lower food quality scores. Certain locations had bad server or wait staff scores. These were things that if you just looked at the public data in isolation, weren't as obvious. And then when we started surveying and asking for specific feedback related to different themes, it started to separate, oh, this particular location is run really well. Their service staff is positively rated. This one is lower. So it was really interesting to see that in that example, we saw that separation happen when we threw private feedback into the mix. Whereas the previous example I showed was the opposite. Private feedback didn't get us quite where we needed to be, and it wasn't until we threw public that we kind of saw that. So that's why you have to put it all together, because you never know where you're going to see that kind of influence.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
And so what we're building, by the way, is instead of just telling you sales pressure is a challenge or a weakness, we're going to create what we call customer journey insights. So literally means sales pressure is a weakness. You're going to say, okay, great, but there's a lot of different times where a customer might feel sales pressure. When exactly are they feeling that pressure? We want to be able to answer that question, right? So we're going to be able to tell you, well, sales pressure is predominantly appearing during the initial dealer visit and during the finance discussion. Those are the places within your customer journey, and these journeys are different for every industry, I should point out, where we're seeing this type of pressure. And so that's coming. We intend to launch a beta later this year where we're going to be with select clients, throwing this product into their hands, studying what they're using it for, making sure everything's going the way it should. But we believe this is a huge step in better understanding what the customer journey is actually like and where we're getting those key insights of what's good and what's bad. The next topic I wanted to jump into is what we call competitive intelligence, right? Answering that "what are my competitors doing" question. And to kind of give you an idea of why we think we're uniquely positioned to do this, we have a bunch of different solutions within our platform that allow us to get access to competitive data. We have our reviews solution where publicly available reviews we can access for a defined list of competitors, throw them in our platform, and then start to run all the same analysis that we do for our clients on their own. We can now do that with their competitors on public review data. Our social tools have things like social listening, where we can build competitor dashboards that help us understand share of voice, the emotion and sentiment behind very specific products and services or topics that are related to the industry that our clients are in. And it's a really good stress test of, again, what people are saying in kind of the structured world, those formal reviews, versus what they're saying in the wild, in this unsolicited world of social listening, where we're looking at blogs and news articles and Reddit threads and tweets and things of that nature. The other thing we have is search ranking data. So this is something that we're developing and going to be launching later this year, but combining this feedback insights with the acquisition side of things, which is where am I showing up in search compared to my competitors, right? Am I showing up in the map pack? How often am I showing up? How often are my competitors showing up in all these different areas that we compete against each other? Areas meaning geographies. And this allows us to have really important insights into exactly what's happening related to the sentiment behind my brand, the performance in search. And then what we're seeing a lot of customers start to do is then look at their survey results and compare if themes they're seeing in this public world with their competitors are impacting things like CSAT scores, NPS scores, or whatever it might be. So all of this is, well, 3 of these 4 things are very actively available today: the social tool, the reviews tool, the ability to compare to survey results. All of that we have in competitive intelligence today. And we have customers, I'll share one story. We have customers that are actually using this competitive intelligence to drive content strategy, paid search strategy, billboard strategy, literally meaning they'll recognize that they're better than one of their competitors in a certain geography at, let's say, their service department. And so they're running billboard ads or paid ads that say, our company X is better at service than so-and-so, like very direct. And it's all populated by real world feedback data that's publicly available. So there's a lot of things you can do with this information to sort of separate yourself from the competition. The third and final thing that I wanted to talk about is, it goes back to taking action. And again, this is kind of the bread and butter of everything that we do is, data is great, but unless you do something with it, it doesn't really matter. And specifically what we've been up to over the last really 18 to 24 months is we built this thing called the inbox. And the big picture 10-second elevator pitch is it's the centralized place to have every single customer conversation, right? And so to make it real. In the past, if you used our platform and you needed to reply to a social comment, had to click on our social tab. You wanted to reply to a review, you had to click on the reviews tab. Survey, same thing. Direct messages, that was the first thing we launched in Inbox about 2 years ago. Now, what we're developing is we need to get all those channels into our inbox. So today, you're going to be able to see all your social comments, all your direct messages, your SMS messages. Reviews are going live in Inbox very soon. Surveys are going to be a fast follow in the next month or so. And what you're going to end up seeing is what we believe is, this is kind of step one, but an inbox that houses all of these customer conversations. And then where it gets fun is, especially because we're on a partner webinar right now, there's opportunities to funnel in even more conversation data, whether it's live chat data, whether it's call center data, whatever it might be related to where conversations are happening. That's the future of this, right? Is that we give a truly centralized inbox with automated assignment to the right people, with the ability to hold them accountable to SLAs, and all of these things that go into really closing the loop with your customer in the right way.
Hey, Phil, one thing on this, inbox is a very popular feature in our platform. And obviously these enhancements are, as we have a set of customers that we're working with on sort of helping us develop these feature sets. What's an example? Maybe just walk through kind of an example of the power of a unified inbox in a sort of real world.
Yeah, so we work with a storage company, and think of it as they have it's a little over 150 storage facilities across the US, right? And previously, what they did was they basically left their facility managers to be responsible to just deal with customer complaints or customer issues or whatever feedback. And they really were like, listen, just log into Facebook and reply there. Like, here's where your survey results go in, use this tool. They were logging into multiple tools. It was a bit of a mess. And so what happens is they would respond significantly slower to this feedback, and sometimes they wouldn't respond at all. And if you know anything about storage facility management, it's not like you're staffed up with a dozen people at all these facilities. A lot of times the facility manager is giving tours, is dealing with people on site. So they're not sitting at a computer, right, waiting to reply to things. So what this company did was really twofold. First thing was they used our inbox to centralize all these conversations. They set up an auto response engine. So when they're off hours, you hit the customer back with an immediate response that sets the expectation of when you're going to be able to get back to them. And then our mobile app allows for alerts to be sent to whoever's defined as the right person to respond to that, so that they immediately are able to jump in and hopefully make whatever that customer question is answered, or make whatever issue is righted. And what they saw, interestingly enough, was response time, of course, got much better. I don't think that's surprising, but they actually saw more converted leads through this tool. So that makes sense from like the customer care side, that would help. They were actually getting more leads and more business because the acquisition side of things, a lot of these messages, they were able to get back quickly and not allow someone to go run off and do business somewhere else, which I think is huge.
Yeah, that's a great point, because we all know as consumers, being heard is one of the things that we place a high value on. And I bet you if I was to ask everybody on the webinar today, everyone could come up with an example where you got frustrated and you left a review and you never heard back from them. And then you're like, well, why did I even go through that? And so, but I'm glad that you touched on the customer acquisition side, because that's one of the, we're seeing that more and more, where just being attentive to people, and they start to, trust you more as a business, and then your acquisition metrics are going to go up as well. And so that's something, we're definitely seeing as a trend across our customers.
In one big theme that I'm observing is, I'm fortunate enough to have 5 years of conversations very specific to the Reputation platform with our customers and partners. And it used to be that you'd walk into a room and you'd be like, it's a marketing person, so they care about the social stuff. Oh, that's a customer experience person, so they run the survey program. Can't tell you how many times I'm walking into rooms now where either both of those groups are in the room, or those groups have merged and they represent the interest of all of those things, right? And so as we think about developing the right strategy and the right relationships with those types of customers, it's almost like feeding into what we believed was the right thing to do years ago. And now it's like everybody's kind of catching up to that mindset. So it's exciting to see. And it's why the timing, I think, of something like a centralized inbox, just as an example, is really relevant in the industry.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point that you brought up. And I think for our partners on the call, we have some partners that are a little more focused in, I know we've got some SEO partners where, we are ingrained into their offerings, and that's a little more on the kind of the search optimization side of the house. We have some partners that focus a little more on the, I would call it the traditional CX side of the house. And getting those silos to come together is difficult, because you have, they traditionally haven't worked together. And what always really helps is when there's a platform that can help to facilitate that. And it might, that we have situations where we have two different groups in our platform and they're kind of talking together, but they're starting to come together more because they're in our platform. And I think for partners on the call today, it's a really good growth area. You've heard us talk about this, we are kind of a land and expand type of a platform, whether we land more in the marketing side, we can move over into the operations side and vice versa. So it gives you a way to go back to your customer base with some follow-on software and follow-on services that you provide. So it's a good trend that we're seeing, and it's kind of cool to watch. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a 15-second wrap up, Brent, because I know I'm at my time. I think it's really relevant too for what Devin's going to talk about later related to technology partnerships as well, because our philosophy is play nice with everyone, because we know that our data is useful, but there's still other parts of everyone's tech stack that are really important. And so the ability to go back and forth and share that data is just going to expand what we're able to do. And so I'm excited.
Yeah, and it's very easy to the connection, because we have some of those data partners on the phone today as well. And when you look at what's on the screen today, a unified inbox, the first thing that comes to mind is there's a big bunch of customer data there that's being used in more of a kind of, if I would say, kind of a tactical interaction with the customer right now, but then that coming out of our platform and being used to inform other parts of acquisition, retention, and loyalty becomes incredibly powerful. Okay, well, we're going to shift, and I'm going to invite Sandy to come off video. Hello, Sandy, and give us a quick update on some of the partner marketing activities.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited to be here today and talk to you a little bit about partner marketing. The purpose of this webinar is really to equip you and support you and find ways that we can partner together to find joint success. So that's really what partner marketing serves to do. So I'm going to talk about kind of two key areas. The first is our partner portal. So this is really meant to be your resource and learning center. Hopefully all of you have access to the partner portal, and if you don't, feel free to reach out to your partner manager or myself and connect with us to make sure we can get you into our partner portal. And really, this is the source for you of training and enablement. We have training videos in there. We're in the process of actually integrating to our learning management system, so we can really get you connected into all of the key learnings that you would need. And we also are constantly updating it with marketing and sales collateral. So you'll find assets by product, by industry. There's battle cards in there. We have custom collateral that we work with our partners to create. So we can put your logos on there. There's actually opportunity in there to co-brand items as well, but we can create custom collateral and get that in there just so that you can see it specifically. And then we have product news and updates. So we're linking out to key things that you want to know about new product announcements, new features, or new additions to our existing products. So this is important information. And then upcoming webinars, upcoming activities that maybe you want to be a part of, blog posts that you may want to know about, or things that you might want to share with your customers. So all of that is linked out of our partner portal. And then, of course, deal registration is a great feature in there that you can come in and log those deals so that we know what customers you're working with and what activity is underway, and making sure that we're tracking that, and that's linking into our Salesforce. So hopefully you all are using that. It's a great tool. It's constantly under improvement. You're going to see some redesign coming in that in the next month or two, just to improve the functionality of it. And then if there are pieces of collateral or things that you go in there and you look and you say, I'd really love this, or, I really love to see the battle card relative to these competitors, let us know. We want to make that a resource for you that best supports you and gives you what you need. So let us know how we can add in things that are meaningful and valuable to you. And then the next thing I wanted to talk about is just really co-marketing. And so this is just the opportunity for us to work together to do joint webinars, case studies on clients that you've had that have been successful, where we can help you put together that case study and really showcase the outcomes that they've achieved with the Reputation platform and our combined efforts. So let us know about those. Again, we talked about joint collateral. That's something that we can put together to really tell the story. We certainly want to engage in joint marketing campaigns and work together to reach those target markets and get that messaging out there that's important to you. And then we are working on some marketing in a box campaigns. So we're hoping pretty soon to have in the portal just some pre-written campaigns that you can use and execute to be able to, not have to come up with that campaign for your specific product or industry or the things that you need. So if you have ideas and you're saying, I'd really love this kind of campaign, I'd really love to execute that competitive intelligence campaign that Phil was talking about, we'd love to know that so we can get those preset emails and collateral and CTAs in the partner portal for you to be able to access. We are happy to sit down and kind of do some joint go-to-market planning with you. So if you're interested in looking at joint go-to-market planning and co-marketing, let us know. You can reach out to your partner manager or you can message me, srunner@reputation.com. So anyways, we're very excited to partner with you. We've been doing a lot with many of our partners over the last 6 to 9 months that I've been here, and I'm super excited to just engage with you and find joint success together.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sandy. I'll just add one more sort of prompt as well. Upsell is a big part of how we grow our business, because as you saw from Phil, there's a lot of ways that our platform has modules. So I think for those partners that have been working with us for a while, where you do have an install base running some of our components, reach out to your partner manager and start to look at some of the upsell campaigns. And what we can do is we've got good success because we do that in our core business as well. So I would that's something I would definitely take as a takeaway from this, because there's a tremendous way to grow your business with us.
And on that, Brent, I'll just note that my team also just works on upsell internally. And one of the initiatives that we have over the next month is really looking at building out collateral that is kind of that better together story. So if you have reviews and you don't have surveys, here's the better together story of those that has kind of a view of, why these products work together, what the success our other customers have seen. So that is coming soon. And again, if you have kind of a specific request or something coming up, let us know and we can prioritize that one to the top. But definitely those better together upsell stories are a priority for us and coming soon.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you, Sandy. Next, very pleased to introduce Devin Ravel. Well, I introduced him at the beginning of the call, but now we will have him talk a little bit about technology partnerships. This is a really exciting area for us. Obviously, with some of the trends we're seeing around customer data, but just and people just wanting to be able to understand and get sentiment as a sort of a broader part of their organization. But also what I think, and Devin will touch on this a little bit, but I'll just sort of set the stage for our resell partners and co-sell partners. This is really important because it expands the type of offering that you can take into your customers. Because as we know, a connected ecosystem or a connected stack inside of an organization is a very powerful thing from a standpoint of retention, provides some more services that can be wrapped around a little bit more of an integrated solution. So with that, Devin, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brent. Happy to be here today. So like Brent mentioned, I oversee our tech partner program. And you might say, well, what does that mean? What are tech partnerships? I know that's a broad category. We look at tech partnerships as ways to take our data and enrich other platforms, or take data from other platforms and bring it into ours. And it's really building business relationships and networks of mutual beneficial joint value props using both of our platforms together. And we're really seeing this in our customer base today. They're looking for platforms that can sort of play adjacently to what they have in their CX and marketing tech stacks. And it really comes down to a couple areas: speed, volume, and value. How fast can we as a platform provide an open framework? And, we have open APIs, we have some pre-built integrations that we're working on, and you're going to see a lot more of that in the coming year. How do we create this value at scale across an entire ecosystem? And what is that value? We're really looking at what does reputation do, not just as a standalone product, but reputation paired with a CRM or reputation paired with a CDP, which I'll get into in a little bit. What is that joint value, and what is that doing to, in today's world, really helping businesses keep better loyalty and retention of existing customers, or drive down the cost of acquiring net new customers? So I'll jump into the categories of tech partnerships that we're working on. And it really is sort of three areas. One is what we call ETPs, or enterprise technology partners. These are what some folks refer to as the majors, products that are in pretty much every large enterprise, and products that might have multiple sub-product offerings. Where do we fit into those areas? That really helps us elevate reputation story into a C-level discussion. The next level down, Andrew from my team is working on this, and Ope, who's over in the UK, is working on this as well, is what we consider ISV co-sell. So typically pre-IPO high growth SaaS companies that have very specific use cases that we can pull into our platform, or vice versa. And then finally, a new area for us is embedded and data partnerships, where we are strictly packaging up our data to do that enrichment. It might be a BI tool, it might be some niche specialty product. So I want to jump into this idea of customer 360 data. So Phil went into some really cool things that we're doing in the platform, and those are what I consider systems of action, or things that reputation can do to help marketers and CX practitioners engage with their customers. The outcome of that engagement is data. And we're seeing this more and more in the market, where there's hundreds of data sources, right? If you look at Reputation's platform today, we're pulling in data from a couple hundred different sources to be able to engage with those customers. And it's noisy. I think if you talk to any large organization or even a small business, there's no shortage of data, purchasing history, sentiment around reviews, surveys, email feedback. There's no shortage of data. And really what we're seeing is the need to turn all this multiple data sources, what we call this noise, into the voice. And one of the key areas that's emerging for us, just really within the last 6 months, is the CDP space, which is customer data platform. We're seeing this become an increased priority for large enterprises, and not just from the customers. We have a number of large partners, which I'll get into, that are telling us, hey, Reputation, we have a gap in our CDP offering. We can look at purchasing history, we can look at digital behavior, and when somebody goes to a website, if there's cart abandonment, why did that happen? But we're missing sort of the qualitative and quantitative aspect of how a consumer perceives their interaction with the business. So if somebody walks into a large department store, were they able to find what they need, or did they waste a trip, right? Gas is expensive right now. How do we know that they're not going to just say, you know what, I'm just going to transact on Amazon from this point forward because, such and such department store doesn't ever have what I need? Or I went into an ER and I had to sit in the waiting room for 2 hours while I was waiting for stitches, right? How are those pieces of feedback being merged and put into larger platforms that then tell brands, all right, if you're going to go after a certain market segment or a certain cohort that is going to drive value for you, how do you know how that individual or how those individuals in a certain cohort engage with your brand? Do they like to come in store? If they do come in store, what are some things that went well or things that didn't go well? And we're really seeing almost all of our tech partners ask us, hey, Reputation, how can you help get us that data? And we think there's massive opportunity in this space. And on that note, I think one of the areas where we're seeing the most traction in this area is in our partnership with Microsoft. So we're super excited to announce that we have officially launched in Microsoft's AppSource marketplace. We're strictly focused in the healthcare vertical for this initial phase, but that use case can be expanded pretty much to any vertical. And it's really the idea of taking summary rep score data, so at the brand level and location level, that data, and making it easily available via Microsoft's Power Apps platform. So if you're not familiar with Power Apps, it's Microsoft's version of a low-code automation platform that allows these data sets to then be ingested into the Dynamics suite of products or Power BI. And specifically within Dynamics, one thing that we're really excited about is Dynamics CI, or Dynamics Customer Insights. So in healthcare today, we know that hospital systems want to be able to retain patients and prevent in the healthcare language, patient leakage to out of network, which costs hospital systems millions of dollars per year. What are those factors that are causing patients to go out of network? That's all data that we're capturing, right? What was the experience with billing? What were specific physicians and practitioners that are really good brand ambassadors for that particular network? That data is now readily available via Power Apps to bring into Dynamics Customer Insights, Dynamics CRM, or Power BI. So we're super excited here. We're live, we're launched. We're just getting started. There's going to be a phase 2 of this integration that's going to be even more robust as we get into some of the visualizations. And we're really grateful for our partnership with Microsoft as well. They've been amazing in helping us get this launched. On the CDP side, another really cool partner that we're working with is Action IQ. So Action IQ is one of the fastest growing customer data platforms out there. And this is a really cool use case where we're taking brand and location sentiment insights and helping large brands and marketing leaders pair that with that consumer behavioral data. So we're just a sliver of a data set in Action IQ's much, much larger data set, but we're an important one because kind of like what I talked about before, we're helping brands try to figure out, how can I increase conversion? What are the attributes of a customer that allows them to come into a store and say, yes, if I'm making a trip, I'm going to buy something? Or if they go online, what is it about that brand sentiment that they're feeling a strong affinity toward? And then finally, loyalty programs, right? So what are you doing with your brand that is causing those customers to stay with your brand, and not just stay with your brand, but become evangelists and say, hey, I'm a customer of this shoe brand and I've been buying shoes from them for 15 years. How are they turning those customers into advocates? And at a very tactical level, it might just be review data, but then taking that review data, ingesting it into a CDP, and leveraging that data to then create marketing campaigns around those stories that are coming directly from the customers. As far as verticals in our relationship with Action IQ right now, we're focused on retail and financial services. As we grow that integration and partnership, we'll definitely be expanding into other areas as well. All right, as far as our emerging partnerships, we have a list of probably about 50 partners that we have in our sites to get activated. I'm going to focus on just 4 today since I don't have 2 hours to spend on this call. But again, this all comes down to Customer 360 and platforms that are touching consumers in different ways and taking our data and integrating it there. So I'll start with healthcare. EMR and EHR is a huge category. You have the Cerners, the Epics, the Athenas of the world. So very soon we'll be launching in Athena Health's marketplace for an EMR survey automation. So a patient can check in with their physician. That record's going to be updated in Athena, and then via API, pretty much as real time as it gets, we'll be able to do survey automation where that patient's going to receive a feedback request, fill out that feedback request. We are able to then collect that and start to build that picture around that patient experience data. We're starting with Athena, but Epic is on the radar too, so we'll be working on that later in the year. Moving into CRM, we're having some really cool conversations with Salesforce right now, both in healthcare, but then just generally, cross-vertical. At a very baseline integration level, it's taking that rep score data, that summary rep score data, and bringing it into an account level or opportunity level object. So as brands are engaging with their partners, with their consumers, they're able to understand what's the current perception, right? If I'm on a sales team and I need to either nurture an existing account or go after a new business area, how do those customers perceive me today? That allows me to pick the right collateral, the right messaging, the right sequence. And without that perception data, you're kind of shooting in the dark. So that's really where we're working with the CRM vendors on that side. Another area that we're seeing, particularly with Salesforce, is closed loop service recovery. So if you look at things like Service Cloud, even platforms like Zendesk, HubSpot has their own service and ticketing software. We're able to identify specific things that are happening. If a negative sentiment sort of indicator pops up, maybe it's a bad tweet or maybe a bad review. In our own actions platform, we have that internally, but that can connect into other service and ticketing platforms to then do resolution with teams that might not be living within reputation. Next is cross-channel marketing, and this is a really fast-growing category. Iterable's a leading partner in this space, and it's really engaging consumers where they're at. So it could be email, text, SMS, cross-channel marketing campaigns, and really creating these journeys that allow brands to solicit feedback during every step of the journey. And that feedback comes through our system. We run it through our natural language processing, and we start assigning scores on how that brand is engaging. Is it working, right? That data then allows those brands to change their marketing campaigns. So if you're doing an email campaign through HubSpot, right, your segmentation, your targeting, and your messaging should be factoring in some of that sentiment data that you're getting back. There's probably 5 more categories that I'd love to talk about, but I know we're limited on time. So I'm going to jump into pretty much the why we're doing partnerships, tech partnerships in a nutshell. And if you're thinking about, how you work with these companies, how you work with us, and what does this mean for you as a partner, if you're a services partner, a reseller partner, it's really about broadening your offering. So every time we sign a new tech partnership and activate that, there's integration potential there. We're not consultants. We're not everything there is to know about marketing strategy. We know there's people out there in our partner ecosystem that can speak that language a lot better. So really around the advisory, why would you want to integrate HubSpot with Reputation, or what particular module within Salesforce should integrate with Reputation? Those are things that you can start to think about as we activate these partnerships. It's really, there's a couple areas that we know we're first to market with some of these integrations. So it's about increasing not just the competitive value of what we're providing as a platform, but for our entire partner ecosystem. It's a first mover advantage with some of these use cases. And then finally, it's quantifying the ROI, right? So if you look at what we're doing from a review standpoint or from a CX standpoint, that's just one piece of a brand puzzle. When you start to pair that data with how they're using a CRM or how they're using a cross-channel marketing platform, you now have more data to tell a much deeper ROI story. And it comes down to this data being really just the fuel for marketers and CX practitioners to really take that business to the next level. So super excited, way more partnerships to come, but really thankful for the partners that we have today. And we're really moving at 100 miles an hour here.
Okay, great. Thanks, Devin. Maybe Sandy, if you and Phil can come off video as we close out. I just want to say thanks to everybody for joining today. Great content. So Sandy, Phil, and Devin, thank you very much for taking time today with our partners. And we have, as I said earlier, some of our existing partners on the phone today, some new partners that we started working with. So it was really good for us to give you an overview of those different areas that we're working on. Some really, really cool stuff in the technology partnership side. So in closing, there's, reach out to us, reach out to your partner managers if there's some things that you saw of interest. And we will be doing these webinars on a probably every quarterly cadence. So I look forward to speaking to you next time. And with that, have a great rest of your day, and we will speak